So, welcome back to the Web3 Insights, where we sit down with builders redefining how the world interacts with blockchain. Today, I'm joined by Brian Anderson, who is the founder and CEO of Raze Finance, which is a platform focused on tokenizing real world assets, everything from real estate to private equity and commodities. Raze isn't just another RWA play. It's a full lifecycle engine that brings creation, capital, and liquidity together, all in one Web3 native platform. With recent momentum, including a partnership with Red Belly Network, Brian and his team are paving the way for institutional grade tokenization at scale. Let's get into how Raze is opening the doors to more liquid, accessible, and borderless financial future. Brian, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Aaron. It's a pleasure. Appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely. Brian, tell us a bit about your background and what led you to start Raze. What problem were you trying to solve at the intersection of real world assets and blockchain?
Sure. Yeah. As somebody who's been involved I've been in and out of software for 22 plus years, all pretty much startups. So ever since I started my career, it's all been startups. I understand the challenges around raising capital and the challenges around the high friction of private companies trying to go to market, raise money. And so also on the software side, as a builder myself, somebody who's been involved in building SaaS solutions, emerging tech, that's kind of really what I've always been passionate about. When I saw blockchain, it was like I had the same kind of awareness and awakening as everybody did, just came in at a different point in time than maybe some others. But I saw this beautiful merging of finance and tech that was going to revolutionize everything. And my first experience, funny quick side story, or my first aha moment from wanting to start a company is when I bought actually an NFT. And when I connected my wallet and purchased an NFT, it was like this light bulb moment came on where I thought, man, this is going to change a lot of things. And I started thinking about all the use cases of NFTs and what we could do with that outside of just, ICOs and tokens and things like that were already in the marketplace. So yeah, I'm super passionate about this industry, but I'm more passionate about onboarding companies and traditional finance people into this space, which we're just starting to scratch the surface and see as an industry.
Nice. How are the NFTs doing at the moment?
Well, yeah, they're looking for their comeback. I think memes are going through the same problem right now, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is Raze and how does it approach RWA tokenization differently than other players that are in the space, maybe?
Sure. Yeah. I saw one of the biggest problems and still see this every day of CEOs of corporations, private companies in particular, and fund managers, or even somebody running like an SPV, raising money or something. They want so badly to come into this tokenization world, and they want to participate, and they may have even tried to, but there's an overwhelming barrier of entry, both on the technology side. People in crypto don't think that. They don't see that. You're like, oh, just spin up a smart contract. But they don't realize that this is a traditional adoption curve that's happening in the technology rollout of a new tech. And that is that people don't just wake up one day and go hire developers, like people that are not in software. So if that's what they have to do, or if they have to get on Discord, I mean, I say that jokingly, but it's actually real. If they are required to get on Discord or Telegram and start communicating tools that they're not used to, they're out. Like they're not going to participate yet because they're seeing it's too early still. And so where we differentiate is we're taking normal, everyday leaders of companies, and we're helping them onboard into this space. And we're helping them do that by saying, if you have got an existing asset and you want to provide liquidity to your investors, or if you want to raise alternative capital, tokenization is a great way to do that. And actually, you can access people that all over the world, actually, that you can't access today without entering a tokenization offering. And so what we don't do is we don't work with people where we have to convince them that blockchain tokenization is the future of finance. If they haven't come to that conclusion yet, they're too early, or we're too early for them. If they've already come to that conclusion, Where our differentiation is going to be is building them a solution to take a token to market, to tokenize their assets, to raise capital or provide liquidity.
Yeah. Tokenized real world assets have been called the next multi-trillion-dollar category in Web3. Why now? What's changed? That makes this the right moment for a platform like Raze.
So interestingly enough, when Larry Fink came on CNBC and started talking over a year ago about the fact that everything they said before was no longer the case, and that is they were not worried or scared about Bitcoin. They were now adopting crypto in a massive way, or at least tokenization. I think that was the beginning. I think we all saw that, and as a company, as a early stage business ourselves, we recognized that was the macro market signaling that it's time. And so we started building and going after issuers and companies that really wanted to bring their assets on chain. And truthfully, it's never been a better time because you've got roughly 3.5 trillion or so of market cap of the crypto industry. And I would argue 98% of that is backed by nothing. Bitcoin is backed by the market faith, right? It's people believing that it's always going to have value. Like gold, a store of value, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah.
But virtually every other altcoin that's launched, it's not backed by an asset. And even 90 to 95% of the RWA tokens that are issued, they're just L1s and L2s or crypto RWAs, latching onto the narrative, but they actually are not tokenizing assets. They're just saying they're an RWA. And so I think now's the time we're going to start seeing real financial institutions and products begin to bring their assets on chain. And they're going to be novel structures, but they're going to be on chain. And it's going to absolutely revolutionize technology or finance.
Yeah, no, I definitely hope so. It's certainly an exciting space within Web3 for sure. Raze isn't just a minting tool. It handles the full asset lifecycle. Can you walk us through what that lifecycle looks like from onboarding an asset to generating liquidity?
Yeah, totally. So when a new customer comes to us, they almost always are at the very early stages of wanting to tokenize their asset class. And so we provide a turnkey solution to where the first thing we're going to do is say, what's the end in mind? Like, what's your goal? Like, is it to raise money? Is it you have an asset class you want to maybe provide more liquidity to existing investors, like an existing fund manager? You may want to digitize distributions, dividend payouts to existing investors, or you may just want to create a new financial, kind of yielding product to raise alternative kind of capital. And so we think about what is the end in mind? Does this token need to trade? Does it need to ever go on a DEX or centralized exchange? Most of the time, people are going to say no or not even know what that means yet. And so we're thinking about the end in mind. And then once we have the tokenomics, like we call it, or the structure of this offering on paper, I always say if you can put it in some sort of legal document, or if you can put it in some sort of financial structure on paper, we can tokenize it. And then what we do is using our platform and using our services, we build them a custom, essentially offer a custom solution for them to go to market. And so when an issuer is going, like Ferox is a great example, when they said, hey, we want to build a titanium backed token offering, meaning that they want to essentially do production financing. They want to raise money to go smelt more titanium, which they've been doing for decades, those kind of mining operations. They said, how do we tokenize? And so we took them through that process. And then finally, the minting of the token happened, which really came last. That came at the very end once everything was architected and figured out. And then once the structure was put together and the smart contracts were created, they then went to market. They needed to stand up a landing page. We helped them with that. They needed to figure out how to embed KYC tools because they needed to ensure verification. They needed to select how is a user going to connect their wallet and buy this token. So we embedded Web Connect and support for 500 plus wallets. So we took them through the whole life cycle, and now they're live with their Ferox token. And essentially, anyone around the world can connect their wallet and participate in their 20% IRR yield bearing token, assuming they pass KYC. And that's a very powerful use case of a traditional company going from the very beginnings to the very end in issuance and having something in less than 90 days.
Liquidity is often the bottleneck of RWA tokenization. How does Raze think about secondary markets, investor discovery, and yield?
Sure. So, liquidity really needs to be broken down between exit liquidity versus like yield liquidity, right? Or distribution liquidity. So I think people immediately jump to that secondary market or that tradability of a token to say, hey, can I get out of this thing? But we're seeing a great interest in yield bearing tokens and stable coins now, right? I think that's going to be the hot narrative as we go into the next year. And so I think we need to change our mindset and think, what is true liquidity? Well, true liquidity is an SPV right now that requires investors' money to be locked up for 2 to 5 years, right? Well, if you can take that same structure and start paying daily or monthly distributions, you've created liquidity, right? You don't have to have an exit. You don't have to get out of the investment. You just have the option for distribution. So I think liquidity is got to be really broken down. So what we do is we help issuers think about those types of instruments. So if they want to offer a yield-bearing token like Ferox, for example, they can offer that and decide whatever kind of return makes sense for their business. And as long as they've got the capital to be able to support that ongoing, they can create any kind of novel distribution mechanism to be able to provide liquidity for their investors. It's very difficult to cut. I mean, I know this is kind of funny, but think about trying to provide daily or even monthly checks, right? Or wires to people in the current world of capital formation, right? It's silly, right? That's why you lock things up for years. And most people don't even want that kind of liquidity. They just want to stay in an investment for 2 to 5 years. But I don't think that's going to be the same. I think as the next generation of an investor starts to come into money, and we're already seeing this with millennium generation and younger, they don't want to be locked up for 7 years. They have participated in crypto. They want in and out of their investments. They're okay with it being higher risk. And so I think the market's adapting to that and realizing that almost every one of these tokenized structures has to have liquidity in mind.
Yeah. You recently announced an exciting partnership with Red Belly Network. What does that collaboration bring to the table for Raze and its users as well?
Sure. Yeah, we're technically a chain agnostic kind of solution because when companies and issuers come to us and say, hey, we want to launch a tokenized product, what we don't want to do is try to sell them something and force them into a particular pathway that may not meet their end goal, right? So the value of working with us is, we're not going to just be tied to one kind of concept or idea. We can say, let's think about what your business goals are first, and then let's make sure your solution is actually built with that in mind. Red Belly was a great example of how we came into partnership with them. We were already working on a process to partner with them, and an MOU was in the works, and we had actually Ferox was the customer where we had to be deployed in less than 90 days, and we had looked at a couple other chains, and one in particular we were going to move forward with, but they weren't technically ready yet. We also needed a requirement around more of a permission-based kind of KYC identity verification on chain. Red Belly met that check mark. We needed something that was more institutional grade. Red Belly met that check mark. And so they kind of, as we went down the list, we're like, these guys are perfect for this issuance. Let's go ahead and move forward with Ferox on Red Belly. And it's been a fantastic partnership. And the other piece too, that I want to give them a lot of credit on is that we're a smaller company that's growing and building, and we needed actual support. And those guys were able to provide direct support instantly on Telegram, Discord channels, everything that we needed, phone calls, live people that we actually talk to and work with from a development standpoint. So big fans of those guys. But yeah, ultimately, we're providing solutions to customers based on their business needs, not just on their technology needs.
Yeah. No, awesome. Let's move on to the regulatory landscape then. How are you thinking about compliance and regulation as you scale globally? Are institutions starting to get more comfortable with tokenized assets?
Institutions definitely are. The private capital markets definitely are. At the end of the day, we have this pesky thing that we all have to deal with, which is, know your customer, right? And I think this emerging of old banking laws. And now that it's electronic and instant and easier, then you can implement KYC into your solution, but it does take a bit of decentralization kind of aspects out of the picture in some way. And so I think what we're doing is we're providing the tool sets to customers based on what their requirements are. If somebody wants to go to market and they don't require KYC or accreditation, that's up to them, right? As long as they're not participating in high risk offerings. But most solutions, especially for any securities offering, is going to at minimum require KYC. So what we do is we either integrate with it at the protocol level, like with a Red Belly, for example, with their KYC wallets, or we offer our own embedded KYC tool set during the token purchase experience. User doesn't have to leave the app. They just KYC and buy the token. Accreditation is a whole different ballgame because 9 out of 10 times we're talking about the United States. We talk about accreditation. And so with those folks, they still have to comply with securities laws until something changes in the United States. The Howey test is the Howey test. And if you're promising returns to a token purchaser and they're a U.S. investor, regardless of where you're doing the issuance, the SEC effectively has potential visibility on your deal, right? You have to be very careful. So we offer an optional accreditation embedded solution that's also electronic. And in same day, you can verify an accredited user and actually have them purchase a token, either before or after the purchase. So we basically just embedded these tools to support those types of needs until laws change.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One of the most powerful promises of tokenization is, financial inclusion, giving, everyday investors access to asset classes that were traditionally reserved, let's say, for maybe institutions or the ultra wealthy. For retail users or investors in emerging markets, how does tokenization through platforms like Raze expand access to assets that were previously, let's say, out of reach?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, think about a private credit lending opportunity or an invoice financing solution or even an SPV, right? Retail users are not going to even have the opportunity to participate that, even if they wanted to, right? It's just not going to be available to them at scale, right? And so the most amazing thing is being able to watch like a solution we've rolled out where in the US, the minimum is $4,000 to participate as an accredited investor. Okay, well, that's kind of out of reach for most people, right? That's considered retail per se. And yet they can jump on MetaMask and buy a token for $10, right? So there's a disconnect there, right? This one's really safe, but it's only available to accredited investors. This one's unsafe, but it's available to retail. Something's not right here, right? And so why is retail taking all the risk, right? So we've now supported a solution where you could call it a retail offering, but it's really a non-US solution. For as little as $100, you can participate in a private credit offering. You can get a 20% yield on any minimum, as long as it's at least $100. And you can start participating in a invoice financing or production financing opportunity. That's what DeFi does. That's the power of decentralized finance. And so we think we're going to see these products roll out all over the world. Stable coins like USDC and Circle has already proven this. Coinbase has proven this, where you can buy tokens and stake them. and earn yield on those. So I think that's really what we're going to see the next kind of explosion of retail come into, is these yield bearing products.
Yeah, no, amazing. Building at the intersection of blockchain and traditional finance, always requires a blend of various skills. What kind of talent are you looking for at Raze? And, also how do you approach team building, especially in such a fast evolving sector as well?
Yeah, it's a real challenge, because most people, not most, but a lot of people, especially in our space, are gig workers or are working in 2, 3, 4 different things. And so getting people dedicated to a project that matches compensation and being able to keep up with the high cost is a real challenge for our business and any business out there, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that we sit in a space that's very exciting, kind of like AI, where people want to be involved in it and they're willing to do what it takes to stay in it until it becomes mainstream. So I think that's extremely helpful. What we do is we really look for folks that have already been entrepreneurs, that are people wanting to kind of get their feet wet, get experience in a startup. That's what I did. I mean, in my first 5 to 10 years of working, I just worked for much lower pay than it probably was worth, and worked in exciting and high, fast-paced environments, and got a lot more responsibility as I began to build my career, as to where I could jump into bigger things. So we're looking for people that just honestly wanted, to try something out and really get experience versus a full-time job, which is very difficult these days, especially for startups, to offer.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. It's always an incredible challenge within this space in particular is finding people that have that niche and that type of exposure to sort of small, fast-paced businesses where things can be, forever changing. For people looking to enter the world of, RWA tokenization, whether they're in tech, finance, or operations, what advice would you give? What kinds of roles or skill sets do you think will be most important as this space scales?
I think that even though I'm not an expert in AI, I think I've recognized, as somebody building a company, that the impact of AI cannot be ignored. And
Yeah.
so people trying to I mean, I've watched a guy on our team, for example, spin out a very impressive prototype of something that we're working on over Easter weekend. It's 2 days using
Mm.
AI, and was able to upload the code into GitHub and send it to our developers and said, hey, you might not use this code, but here's something we're thinking about. That blew my mind, because we've come
Mm.
that far. So I think development is going to change dramatically. I think what is in most need is brain power and experience. I think that's really
Yeah.
where the premium is going to be paid. Like, sure, you can crank out a platform, but is anybody going to buy it? Sure, you can create a token offering, but is it actually going to get adoption? Is there a buy side from investors? Right. So I think people coming to the table with traditional experience I'm sure traditional capital markets and finance experience is very important for our space. And then number two, people coming to the table understanding that their tactical skill sets and development, project management, et cetera, may not be as appreciated as it once was because of the impact of AI.
Yeah. 100%. I think the hot word and hot topic right now is all around vibe coding, isn't it?
Yeah,
As they
it
say.
is.
That's what the name for it. There's loads of mixed opinions on it as well that I sort of see on a daily basis on socials. But I think you're right. We need to embrace it, and we need to learn how we can sort of work with it to enhance all of our daily lives. Whether you're a developer or marketer or whatever it may be, there's benefits
Right.
to make everyone's time more efficient, right? Um, Finally, then, what's next for Raze? What are your big priorities going into the next sort of 12 to 18 months?
So what we're doing is we're going to be servicing a dozen or so issuers, customers that are wanting to basically go to market with their RWA tokenization project. And we're looking to successfully roll those number of issuers out by the end of the year, bring somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 million plus to even upwards to $500 million of assets on chain for these issuers. And complete our early stage seed round, probably move to a Series A by the end of the year. And then we are working on a TGE as well, which has been in the works for about a year, but we've held off from embedding our token in our platform for quite some time for all the reasons people could probably guess. But we've been very thoughtful about that token launch as it's very much in line with being paired with RWAs and our customers' assets, et cetera. So it's pretty exciting to see when we get to that point, we do TGE. I think people want to participate in that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I certainly wish you all the best. Brian, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you break this down. It's clear to see, that Raze as well isn't just about tech. It's about building a gateway to financial products that, most people have never had access to. So for anyone looking to explore tokenized assets or, learn more about how to bring RWAs on chain, do go and check out Raze's website at raze.finance and also follow them on X at Raze Finance. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Web3 Insights for more conversations with innovators shaping Web3's real world impact. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Brian, thank you once again.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.